Welcome to the journey of becoming. I'm your host, Karrie Mitten. Before we get started, a quick question. Are you ready to break through to your next level? Uplevel Your Life Consulting is where executive success meets soul aligned strategy. If you're a high performing professional or an entrepreneur who's accomplished a lot, but deep down know that there's more clarity, more impact, more freedom, more you, then this is your moment. Our executive coaching is for leaders who are ready to stop defining their worth through achievement or overgiving, craving alignment over perfection and purpose over performance, learning to rewrite their story with boundaries, rest, and self worth at the center, and looking for a trusted transformational guide who knows the courage it takes to choose visibility and authenticity with personalized coaching, mindset rewiring, and deep identity work. We don't just scratch the surface, we go deep to help you release burnout, embrace your truth, and expand into your next chapter with clarity and confidence. This isn't about doing more, it's about healing what's underneath and becoming who you really are without apology. Let's talk about what's possible for you. Book a free clarity call today and let's create a bold vision for the next level of your becoming. Visit www.uplevelyourlifeconsulting.com to schedule your call today because you didn't come this far to only come this far. And now on with the show. So today we have with us Dr. Angela Downey, founder of the Codependent Doctor, a podcast and personal brand dedicated to helping women break free from codependency, people pleasing, and perfectionism so that they can live more authentic, aligned lives. Through her book, Enough as I Am, her podcast, and her powerful personal story, Angela supports women who've spent years defining their worth through caregiving or achievement to reclaim their identity and prioritize their well being. Her journey from academic failure to doctor, author, and speaker is a testament to resilience, reinvention, and the power of rewriting your story. Angela, welcome to the show.
Hi, Carrie. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I was so excited to hear from you today and hear your story of your journey of becoming. So tell me, where were you when you first realized that you were on a journey?
Probably from the day I was born. I mean, it starts right in childhood. Journeys are just life lessons that you pick up along the way. And yeah, I don't know if I had a destination or what, but I just thoroughly enjoyed learning new things and challenging myself along the way. So yeah, I've been on a journey every step of the way from the time that I was very young.
Hmm. And I love how you talked about you're in a season of growth and discomfort right now. So tell us
Yeah.
what that looks like in that trans in this season.
Sure. So, I'm a family doctor, and I've been doing that for quite a few years. So that's what I know, and I knew I had a place to go to every day at work. I had a guaranteed job, and now I am trying all sorts of new things. I'm trying to expand my reach and provide free mental health resources for patients through my podcast, The Codependent Doctor. I've never had a podcast before.
Mm.
I've never written a book. I never really thought that I was a creative person. I didn't think I could write a book, but here I am, writing a book, doing a podcast, speaking to people, which is something that I was never really comfortable with in the past. But it's been it's been a journey going through all that and challenging myself in different ways. So I do get very nervous before I do things. I'm relatively new at doing podcast interviews and sometimes I fumble, but it's just getting back up every single time and trying again and trying new things. And I had to let go of perfectionism to do that. So most of my days are spent feeling a little bit uncomfortable as I try new things, but it's been very rewarding and I'm enjoying every step of the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked a little bit before about being in the messy middle, right? And how
Yeah.
important being in that part of your transformation is part of the growth and part of the realization that there is something birthing here. Share with me, you talked about rewriting your story after academic failure, how you rebuilt your path
Yeah.
after failing the first year at university. Share with us that that part of your life.
Yeah, so I tanked my first year of university. I'd always wanted to be a doctor, but nobody in my family ever went to university, and I had very little guidance in that department. But still, I knew how to study, and I didn't. I showed up. I had a really good time in my first year of university, but so I ended up failing. And I had to switch paths because at the time I really couldn't see how I would ever become a doctor with a GPA of 1.8. So I shifted. I went to into an accounting program, and from there it was more of like they held your hand a little bit more, to, little gave you little steps to follow, and I was able to learn how to study. And so I worked in an accounting program for a couple of years, and but I really regretted not becoming a doctor. And so at one point, my position in my accounting firm became redundant. And so most of my department was moved off to somewhere else. And they kind of paired us up with a agency that helped us work on our resumes and interviews and whatnot. And one lady had asked me, like, why don't you go to school and upgrade your accounting? And I thought, I just don't want to do that. I can't. And I kept feeling this pull to medicine. And I had a long list of excuses as to why I couldn't do medicine. At that point, I had a child. I, lived in a very small place. We didn't have a lot of money. I knew I had this GPA of 1.8 that was going to haunt me forever. And I couldn't see how to do it. But she just said, well, why not? And those two words, they just rang in my head. And I got home. I worked on a budget. I tried to figure out a way how to do it. My partner at the time said, you've been living with regret for a long time. You either do something with this now or you allow yourself to move on without going to medical school. So I signed up for medical school. I went back and did my science degree, had another child during that process, and yeah, it was challenging. I had to get all straight A's and, do whatever I could to bring up my GPA, and I managed to bring it up sufficiently
Mm,
and managed to get into medical school. But it was a tough decision, and, going through medical school with two children wasn't easy. But
mm, mm.
that was the mess that I was in, and I was dedicated to making it work, and so I did.
I love that story because, similarly, when we have a dream or we have a calling, that calling doesn't stop calling us, right? And the universe or your higher power, whatever that looks like for you, will nudge you in that direction until
Mhm.
you make that move. And even if it feels uncomfortable, even if it feels messy, even if it feels insurmountable, right? And good for you for leaning in and listening, even though, it would, I'm sure it was a challenging experience, especially with raising two children at the same time and all of those things. But that's part of the becoming, right? That's part of the unfolding, the unleashing of
Absolutely.
beautiful.
And it was tough because I had somebody from the Faculty of Medicine telling me that, I should set my sights on something else because I was never going to make it into medicine with that first year of university that I had. I
Mm,
had people, discouraging me from chasing this professional career when I had children that I should be focusing on. So
mhm,
other than my partner, I didn't really feel like I had a lot of people who believed that I could do it or, believed that I should be doing it. I kind of got these messages from society that as a woman, I should be just taking care of my children. I shouldn't be focusing on myself or any of the goals that I had. So there just seemed to not be a lot of support
mhm.
there. And so that was definitely a big challenge as well.
Yeah, and the world will tell you you can't do things,
Yeah.
but when your soul is calling you into something and you know that that is your path, there until you start walking down that path, there will be an energy leak there. I felt the same
Mhm.
way. I was in corporate America for 25 years. Many of you know this, listeners know the story. I felt like I was, trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. It was not my calling. And once I made the leap and really didn't, at finally stopped listening to the opinion and approval of other people around me, did I step into my true purpose and my true calling, which is, executive coaching,
Mhm.
to support the women who've been in my shoes, who have been, walking that path of not necessarily listening to their soul's calling. So, talk to me a little bit about and most of a lot of us would be thinking, well, of course she had burnout. She was
Mhm.
in the PhD, or getting her doctorate, and two children and running a life and all of these things. But tell us a little bit about that and what that looked like for you, and what you did to support yourself through that.
So I've burnt out twice. One was in my third year of medical school
Mhm.
when I had no time, and whatever time I did have, I gave to my children and everybody else. I wasn't taking care of myself.
Mhm.
And that I overcame that with hiring a mother, to be honest with you. I hired a woman who came to my home. She brought my kids to school, essentially a nanny. She cooked our meals. And so, with having somebody else taking care of, cleaning my toilets and the shower and things like that, I was able to focus on going to school. And whatever free time I had was spent enjoying my time with my kids. So
Mhm.
that's how I got through that period of burnout. I
Mhm.
burnt out again and when I was a family physician.
Mhm.
So throughout most of my life, I've been a people pleaser and a perfectionist and being afraid of having other people be upset with me. So, I would bend over backwards to give people the things that they needed, and people will take everything that they want. If you're willing to give it, they will take it. And that led to me becoming burnt out when I got sick a
Mhm.
couple years into family practice, and I felt guilt all the time for, not being there for my patients. And I would be going to work with my IV lines hidden under my sweater. I remember going to work, I had a drain tube sticking out of my chest,
Mhm.
but I patched that up and I put a sweater over top so people couldn't see it because I didn't feel like I could take that time off for myself and to heal. I felt like I didn't want to let other people down. I didn't want to let patients down. And so I tried working really hard while I was sick, and that just led to me being very resentful of people who just wanted things from me, and I had nothing left to give. My cup was completely empty. People still wanted more from me, and I blamed my patients, I blamed my family for wanting things from me, but in truth, it was me who wasn't asking for the things that I needed. I wasn't asking for the time off. I wasn't, working shorter schedules. And so that led to me being burnt out. And it wasn't until I was going to therapy and I listened to a whole bunch of podcasts that I realized that I was a people pleaser. I was a perfectionist and I had gotten in the habit of putting everybody else ahead of me. And that's when I learned that I was codependent. And so through therapy and podcasts, listening to podcasts on codependency, I was able to learn how to put myself first and how to take proper care of myself so that I could fill up my cup and then I would have more to give to others.
Mhm.
And that's probably been one of the best things I've ever done for myself was learning to set boundaries. And I know these are all things that you talk about in your course, your counseling for executives because as women we're kind of raised to be good. We're raised to be the good girls. We're raised to be, giving of ourselves and to be selfless. And that doesn't work well when we get older.
Absolutely. Yes. And a couple of things that I love what you said, to support yourself in getting through that was number one, a structure of support. There's a couple of ways, there's only a couple of ways to change, to have transformation. One is a structure of support, right? Whether it be, excuse me, a nanny or a cook or someone to take care of your home. That's a structure of support, someone that can support you in and staying the course in your zone of genius, right? And oftentimes, we think that we can take it all on, and in reality, what we're doing is we're thinning out, or we're watering down our level of genius, right? And so if we allow other people to take on their level of genius and so inside a structure of support to support you, then the world is a better place, right? Because we're not watered down in what we're doing. And then the other thing is, having having a therapist, having podcasts to listen to, the difference between what I do and what that does is truly like taking, what action step can I take, right? What are the steps that are important here to understand and realize that I am responsible for my own results, right? And so whatever type of structure of support that looks like for you, as long as we're taking the action, which it sounds like you did. I mean, obviously you're supporting now with a book and with a podcast, other women or other people who are in similar situations, and that is so important. The last thing is I believe is immersion or repetition or constantly, reprogramming our subconscious mind, right? So through listening to lots of podcasts, doing the therapy work, all those types of things, we're actually rewiring and refiring new neural pathways in our brain to support us in changing the things that no longer serve us. So I love that. That's beautiful. And so, you know, what was, if you could share with me, what is the one thing that really changed the course for you? What was the one thing that really in your life or your business, maybe it was a pivotal decision, a big, bold decision that you made. Is there something that you can share with our listeners on the one thing that really changed everything for you?
So I think for me, it was stop being a people pleaser, and this is still something that I deal with every day because I am I think I'm a natural people pleaser. That's just kind of how I was born and raised.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was letting go of people pleasing. That was the biggest shift, and it's not always easy to do, but I had learned to override different things in my body that would lead me into the direction I needed to go to. So if somebody asked me to do something and I didn't want to do it, I get this like sick feeling in my stomach, and I know that deep down I don't want to be doing this, but I've learned to just push through that and say, yes, I will do whatever you want me to do. So I learned over time to ignore those feelings that I had in my body that told me I don't want to do this. This is not okay. Or I'm really excited to do this. I'm saying yes because I actually want to, as opposed to saying yes because I'm doing it for you, even though it's making me feel sick and I know it's not in line with who I am or what I want.
Mm-hmm.
So learning to pay attention to my body,
Mm-hmm.
and, I kind of just call it like the 3 second authenticity pause where I take that 3 seconds to figure out, what do I want in this moment? Do I have the energy to commit to this? Do I want to be doing this? And paying attention to my body and just seeing, is this something that I want? Am I excited? Do I feel like I'm going to throw up? And paying attention and then knowing what to do with that. So if I'm not feeling very good and somebody asks me to do something, I just ask myself, do I have the energy? Do I have the time? Is this what I want? Am I doing this out of guilt? Am I doing this just because that other person wants me to and I don't want to upset them? So for me, it's just kind of letting go of that people pleasing, figuring out what I what I want, and whether or not that meant, letting a text message just kind of sit there for a little bit and me taking the time to feel what I needed to feel, or letting a phone call go to voicemail that just bought me time, or maybe telling somebody, that sounds like a really fun idea. Just give me a little bit of time to think about that and I'm going to get back to you. So just allowing myself the time to answer what people's requests, trying to think about, like, what is it that I want in this moment? Can I do this? And then getting the words, learning how to communicate what it is that I wanted. It's things like, this sounds like a really great opportunity, but I'm going to have to pass. And realizing that I don't have to write some big novella explaining to someone why I can't help them move their couch that day, right? I can't do it. So I
Yes.
don't need to give you 20 reasons why I can't do it. And it's okay to say I just can't do it. So learning that that I don't have to justify why I can't do something. I don't have to explain myself. I don't have to feel bad for telling myself, you know what, you just need a couple of hours to recover from, or you need a day to yourself to sit in your PJs watching TV one day. Um, and just not feeling guilty about telling people that I can't do something. So that's probably everything around people pleasing, and learning how to overcome that's probably one of the biggest things I've done for myself.
And I can tell you that I'm sure that many, many of our listeners are listening to that thinking, oh my gosh, what freedom, right? Because
Yeah.
as you said before, women are tended, we tend to be natural people pleasers and want to, want to be the good girl and do the things that, that we're, I wouldn't say required, but the world, thinks that we should.
Yeah.
And, yes, absolutely. And I love how you said you're listening to your body. One of the things that I teach is we have four bodies: our spiritual, our mental, our emotional, and our physical. And as when it manifests finally in the physical, that is the physical representation of something in the spiritual, the mental, or the emotional that's not working for us, that's not aligned with who we are, right? And so, yeah, absolutely. Check in with yourself. Does this feel expansive or does this feel contractive? And
Yeah.
that's something that I got to learn as well, because for so long I didn't feel. It was almost like I didn't have feelings because I was asking everybody else to tell me, how I'm feeling or what I should be doing or all the things, and I wasn't really listening to my body, which
Yeah.
is a perfect biofeedback mechanism.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And we're taught to be like that. We're programmed from a young age. If I can give you an example, I had kind of like a family friend, and when we would get together, he always insisted on kissing people on the lips, and sometimes he would linger. And
Mm,
I was younger. I was like 11, and he did it to everybody. And I don't think he wasn't doing it to be mean, but I was incredibly uncomfortable with this, and I didn't like it. And yet when I talked about it to people, they were like, "Oh, he just does this to everybody. Just, it's just a couple of seconds, just leave him be." And so, there's an example of me knowing what my body wants. I did not want that, but I
mhm,
was taught that because I didn't want to make anybody else around me uncomfortable, that
mhm,
that's just something I had to put up with. So we're taught with these types of little examples, we're taught over time to suppress how we're feeling in
mhm.
attempt to make other people around us feel more comfortable.
Mhm. Mhm. Beautiful. Yes. And I think we've all had that experience at one time or another. And it's time to step up. It's time to use our voice to share how we feel about the things that are going on around us. Absolutely. So, Angela, as you reflect on your journey and success that you've achieved so far, what would it look like for you to take your impact, maybe even your income, your influence to the next level? What does that look like for you?
So I've got my podcast
Mhm.
called Codependent Doctor. I've written a book called Enough as I Am. There's
Mhm.
also a 365-day journal in there called Enough as I Grow. And this is kind of a journey through life. So it's looking back at your childhood. What are some of the, events that have helped shaped your life now as an adult, and how have these things impacted you? And then what you see for yourself in the future. So that's Enough as I Grow. I am starting to do more speaking engagements, webinars for people. I'm starting a second podcast called Paging Dr. Mom. And this is for professional women who are trying to juggle careers and family. Um, so just doing different interview styles and interview style podcasts to help professional women get through their days. So these are some of the things that I'm working on right now, and I'm just loving the variety. I still practice medicine. I'm still seeing patients, and it's actually everything that I've learned doing all these, podcasts and writing a book has really helped shape who I am as a physician and what I can bring to my patients.
Yeah. And as you're stepping into your next level of becoming, what is some of the fear that comes up on your journey?
So these are all things that are very new to me. I'm also a perfectionist, so I sometimes I struggle with taking that next step because things aren't perfect, and it's I need to give myself permission to not be perfect when I start these things. I was not perfect when I started my first podcast episode of Codependent Doctor, I recorded that first episode like 5 times, and finally I had to ask myself, "Okay, so what is the bare minimum that I need to do to produce something that's reasonably okay for people to listen to?" And, so when I had people listen to it, I was like, "Does this meet the bare minimum requirements to be okay to put out there?" And it was, and every day it's just become a little bit easier. So, um I have failed lots of things in life, and I have managed to pick myself up and try again. And so, failing or not doing well on things has become okay. And that has also helped me be less of a perfectionist.
Mhm.
And I try, I listened to a podcast, and the person encouraged people to fail at least 5 times a month. Like, you were allowed to fail at least 5 times every month, and that's what he encouraged.
Mhm.
So, it gives you permission to try new things and to put yourself out there. So, yeah, for me, one of the biggest challenges dealing with that perfectionism, and so, yeah, learning to deal with failure and perfectionism is probably my biggest challenges.
Amen. Welcome to the club, my friend.
Mhm.
I think that's as especially as, high performing professionals, that is always something that we are challenged with is wanting to do everything perfectly and everything right. And as we talked about, sometimes we just get to go through the messy middle in order
Yeah.
to get to the beautiful experience that we're looking for. So yeah. So last question is, looking back on everything that you've done and gone through so far, if you could give one piece of advice to our listeners today, who are and understanding that we're all on this journey of becoming. It's not we never really become, but we're always growing, we're always learning, we're always becoming. What would be that one piece of advice that you would give our listeners today?
Learn to love the process. So love learning, love trying new things.
Mhm.
When you set yourself, a goal, your goal isn't to, be a podcaster, but your goal should be learning how to record things, learning how to put yourself out there. What are the things I'm able to say? So just learning that whole process is going to just help you feel invincible and do whatever you want. So not yeah, just being okay with learning that process.
Mhm. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey with us, Dr. Angela. It's been such a pleasure hearing about your breakthroughs and the lessons that you've learned along the way. And, I'm sure our listeners are feeling inspired to take their bold action and on their journey of becoming in their own lives. Before we can wrap up, or before we wrap up, I should say, where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about your work?
Yeah, so I have 2 podcasts called The Codependent Doctor and Paging Dr. Mom. I have a website called www.thecodependentdoctor.com, and my book is on Amazon. Enough as I Am and Enough as I Grow.
Beautiful, beautiful, wonderful. Well, again, thank you for being here today. I know your story is going to leave our listeners feeling empowered, ready to take action. For everyone tuning in, remember your journey of becoming starts with one brave step. So take it today. Until next time, keep embracing your transformation.